half, and the cost was reasonable. Now, which program was it?
Jenny Craig.
Lose all the weight you want for just a $79 program fee. Dial direct 1-800-92-JENNY.
Unlike millions of other people who were born out of wedlock, and we're going to talk about what it's like to grow up being called illegitimate on the next program.
Thursday at 4 on Channel 2.
Well, the highs and the lows are all here. In one of the most compelling personal stories you will read in a long, long time. Yes, there are tears in here, but there are a lot of laughs, too, as we should not expect from the woman who has given them to us more consistently, more often than any other person in the world of comedy over the past 2-3 decades. I am pleased to welcome Joan Rivers. Boy, you're even more interesting now. Joan Malinsky.
You got it.
From an outer borough. Which one? Brooklyn?
Westchester, Larchmont.
Well, that's where you moved.
Brooklyn. Born in Brooklyn. And proud of it. All the smart ones.
Yeah. Your father was a doctor. We're trying to do a show here. I tell you.
Spike, come here, come here.
Spike.
You just leave him alone. Sit down.
Your mother came from wealth.
My mother came from Wells,
You know, Odessa.
Russia. I think it's still Russia now. And my dad came from poverty. They met here, married. I guess a good marriage now, you know.
Yeah.
But a lot of money problems.
Yeah.
Unlike the rest of us.
I'm trying to figure you out because, boy, are you interesting. And it's a very important question that you speak to in your book. You even said, and this was so honest, through this horror of your husband's death, if you had your way, you'd have gone, and this is a little unfair to you because you make it very clear, boy, this was an arrow in the heart, and you don't know who you are, you're bouncing around, you have no idea what's going on, you're crying, you're weeping. You wanted to go from the mortuary to the stage.
Absolutely. If I could have that same night, if I could have. If I could have done an afternoon show, I would have done it.
Because going out there, this is
the only time you forget. There's such concentration when you perform, as you know, when you do a show, that you absolutely forget everything. And my life had fallen to such pieces when my husband committed suicide. I mean, beyond anything, it wasn't like a natural death. It's nothing you're expecting. That if somebody said to me, go out there and do an hour and be fun, it would. I couldn't work because you can't explain that to an audience. She's coming out here to forget, so she's going to entertain you. So it was a terrible situation. I couldn't do anything.
I'm trying to figure out where success was just really important. You're not alone here.
Oh yes.
I mean, lots of people have it, but and it was important to Edgar.
Yeah.
And you make it very clear that your marriage became your career for both of you.
Yeah.
This wasn't A Star Is Born so much. This was a man whose own ego rested in your success.
Yeah. What happened was, well, nobody wants to be a failure. I mean, and of course you go into the business and you want to do as well as you can. And we became the business together. You know,
increasingly, the romance in my life was my career. My lover was my career. My career gave me the flowers and the candy. And that is the way 24 hours a day of wondering and worrying you have to be if you are going to stay in the mainstream. Now, let's talk about it. We try to figure out what we've learned here, because maybe you can help us, Therapy today, you're talking bucks here, so let's get some free stuff here. My mother, Beatrice, a formal, queenly woman, was my rock of security, always there for me, solid, always taking my side, defending me, totally loyal. Her children, by God, were the best. If she saw any faults in me and Barbara,
Nobody heard about them. I adored her. Listen to this. But her love could not come out as tenderness. There were no loving arms encircling us. You know, a lot of guys say this about their fathers, you know. Their fathers never touched them. Here you're saying this about your mother, whom you say loved you. You knew that.
Daughter.
I remember reaching over and touching my mother's hand in the theater. I do not remember her ever touching mine.
Absolutely. I adored my mother, and she adored me. She just came from a formal background.
Her love was expressed as worry, making sure Barbara and I had everything we should. Education, good manners, know-how in society, and the right clothes.
Yeah.
Worry. Was she a lot of advice? Don't sit, don't stand, don't walk.
Be careful, look good. A girl must always look good. A girl has to do this. A young lady has to go to college. A girl shouldn't do this. A girl should do that. Very proper, my mother.
Yeah.
And had to marry off these two klutzes, you know. Had to...
Yeah.
She had a lot of smarts in her, too, you know. Put yourself together.
But I'm trying to figure out, do we have your agreement now that after all you've been through, you know, to have professional success, this important, this is not a preach, but I'm trying to understand this, is really very unhealthy. I mean, the last thing you want to do is put your emotional well-being in the basket of the fickle public. I know it's easy to say, but holy cow, that looks like that was it for not only you, but Edgar as well.
But you don't do it. It happens. You start out and the career becomes more important, and you know, you trust fewer and fewer people, and more people disappoint you, and you become tighter and closer, and you begin to guard more what you have. And it just became totally enveloping with both of us. And then it all went away.
Yeah.
All was taken away.
But as it becomes more totally enveloping, it seems to me Edgar scarred so very deeply.
Yeah.
And you sat there while Barry Diller, the chairman of Fox, told him to shut up. We've got some Willie Loman here. This killed you, this man whose life was committed to you. He was your live-in mensch. You had to worry. He's details, Joan. I bet he worried about lighting, all that, huh?
Everything. My husband worried about... I wouldn't be sitting here today if my husband hadn't built with me for 21 years before.
Yeah. The problem, Joan, as you share with us in your book, is that if he were alive today, and don't we wish he were, he'd be driving the people in the control room crazy, wouldn't he?
He'd be driving them crazy, but I bet I'd be looking better on camera than I look now. And I haven't even looked at a monitor. I'm telling you, they'd be saying she never looked. Look at that, they'd be saying.
Yeah.
Joan Rivers on the Phil Donahue show, 20 years old she looked.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So, yes,
so
he
is
drove
this every woman's dream? I mean,
yeah, and he was wonderful, my husband. I could be the nice guy. You know, there's Helen Reddy and Jeff Wall. There's so many husband and wife teams.
Where he is her SOB.
Edgar was my hat. It was wonderful. They used to always say, we love Joan, but he is a son of a bitch. What they didn't know, anyone that's married, you go home at night and you talk together. And nobody could figure that out. You understand what I'm saying? But he was the one that took care of it. I was like a child. It was wonderful. When my husband died, I didn't know where my bank was. You understand? I'm a smart businesswoman. I didn't know where the safe deposit was. I didn't want to know who. Calvin asked my friend. She said she had the same thing. I wanted to write the jokes, do the performing, be the mother, have the pretty house. He did all that stuff you don't want to do. You know, it was wonderful, and he loved doing it.
The problem began to develop. You see, this is really great until things start to look.
Yeah.
And his meticulous attention to you and your lighting and all the other things. You were at Fox, and your show was not a Roman candle. You have a lot of evidence suggesting you were doing fine.
We were doing fine.
Yeah, but...
Not to them.
Right. And it's also an upstart network with $1.50 budget. And so when he wanted an office, when he wanted a secretary, when he... they started this.
Yeah.
And now comes sort of a loss of dignity, a failure to respect. Edgar is crazy. All he can think about is his wife. and he's older and he doesn't know, and you got a lot of new hip guys with earrings in the ear, you know. I mean, this is, listen, time goes on.
So he starts falling apart.
But he fell apart, brothers. He fell apart from the heart attack on. The heart attack, he had a terrible heart attack, and he had a four-way bypass, he was in a coma and the whole thing. And when he came, I say in the book, I was standing in front of the intensive care unit, and a woman said to me, "You think you're having troubles now? When he comes out, he's going to be different. You'll never be the same man." And he never was the same man. The heart attack changed with the pills. He took pills, morning pills, night pills. Something just never gelled again in him.
Yeah. And he knew, he was a bright man. He knew which rivers flowed into the Mediterranean.
Yes, he did.
And you say the only thing you knew were actresses over 30.
Right. That's starting MGM musicals.
Yeah. This was the man your mother wanted you to marry, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got the laughs, he had the class.
Yeah, exactly right.
But he brought such baggage and security to this, and so did you. I mean, he also knew you weren't the loudmouth, sassy on stage. What? That wasn't you.
Right.
He knew that wasn't you.
That's why we married.
Now, I'm trying to figure out this. First of all, he ran from Nazis, right?
Yeah, he was forced. Terrible story. 3 times. The first time they were Jewish, and the Nazis came in, and they got out with nothing. He took a canary at the border, and those scum took the canary from him. They got out with nothing, and then they went to Denmark and started again. I mean, you talk about tough times.
This is going to set you up for a psychiatrist for the rest of your life. I understand that. Now, I'm wondering, you know, how's your child work in this? Because you aren't necessarily, you know, the only time you're secure is center stage, all alone with the spotlight. That's what's screwy about this.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if your mother had touched your hand. Are you going to be this funny? I'm wondering about this.
I think if my mother had been warm and affectionate, probably not.
Your father's absent, too, incidentally. Your father's a doctor. He's
gone.
Home late at night.
Yeah. No, I think if I'd been born beautiful, I wouldn't have been funny, you know. So.
You were fat?
Well.
Delta Burke. With a hair bow. You understand?
Well, you know, you go through, listen to this. You say, by 6 years of age, I was a fatso who finished her midnight snack just in time for breakfast and ate so much she had stretch marks around her mouth.
Yeah, well.
In high school, my acne was so bad, blind people tried to read my face. In biology class, a frog tried to dissect me. I sat out more dances than FDR. I was petting with a boy and his hand went to sleep. A rat-a-tat-a-tat. Now, let's understand this. These lines come from, obviously, a lot of pain, honey.
Terrible pain.
You were nothing. What boy would want you? Your sister went on to a professional career. You were going to be an actress. And so this all gets fixed with a big orchestra and a spotlight. Ta-da! Can we talk?
Can we talk?
And they all lean forward, and you are home. Free.
And they listen to you, and they think you're wonderful.
Yeah, but in comedy, nobody hits the long ball every time. So I can only wonder what went on and what kind of depression you had to feel in those times in your career when you played empty tables or when you didn't knock them out. I mean, you know, Faithful, you played some pretty small places in the village. Yow, you must have really been a banjo stringer.
And still am. Comedy, you never know. You think you walk in now and they know you and are going to accept you? On 12 times that I perform, 2 times they won't like me or really won't be crazy about me. So that goes on forever. That's part of what makes a comedian funny, that insecurity.
Yes, you also... Come here. Like, come here, baby.
Come here.
No, not at all. This is
come here. Over here, right now. Let me put him up
you,
here.
will break
Melissa will act much better.
You were separated from Edgar at the time of his death. He really was... He had even moments of psychosis, didn't he? I mean, where he...
It was...
He said I was Jack Hilton's relative, and he was saying things that weren't true.
It was terrible. At the end, he had a terrible breakdown, and he just couldn't get it together, and I said, you must go for help. I can't do this anymore. I was shattered, then it was after Fox, and they were trying to destroy me, terrible publicity campaign, and I said, I will not come back unless you go for help. And he said, I will go for help on Saturday, and he killed himself on Friday. Just wouldn't go for help.
At the memorial service, I remember Jill Eikenberry, Michael Tucker, Dom DeLuise, Dolly Parton, Barbara Walters, Alan Carr, Mariette Hartley, Rona Barrett, Ann and Kirk Douglas, Sandy Gowan, Pamela Mason, Elton John, Florence Henderson. I was amazed that I never heard a syllable from Johnny Carson. Since? Then or since?
Never. Never. And the horror of it, and it's not, I mean, I put all this behind me, you know, I can't deal with negative things. I had met Edgar through Johnny Carson. And no matter what had gone down between us, I think at certain points in people's lives, you pick up a pen and you say, this is terrible. When Johnny's son died so tragically, I picked up a piece of paper and I wrote to him and said how terrible and how sad these events happen in our lives. No, I never heard a word from him. No, it was disgusting and it was wrong and it's his problem.
Consider the questions that beset Joan Rivers on the occasion of Edgar's death. What should the act be? No longer could I come out as a married woman. Nobody wanted to hear about problems on my wedding night. I would have to find a new persona. What could I joke about? Finally having all that closet space. Would that be the joke? Edgar was, as you know, very much a part of this thread that wove through all her material. Well, guess who has come back from the bottom of the emotional well? And aren't you gorgeous? The book is titled Still Talking, and we are with the host of her own very successful talk show, and we'll be back with her in just a minute.
It's not mine.
Crisp, clean Dentine. We'll take care of your breath. The rest is up to you.
Hi. Hi. Didn't I see you here yesterday?
Yeah. Come on and nutritize your body. Come on and nutritize your mind. Want to change your old size for a Nutrisize? Call your Nutrisystem Center. We'll teach you how to develop a whole new relationship with food. Nutrisize your life.
For 1 week only, Nutrisize for 50% off Nutrisystem's full-service program. Call 1-800-321-THIN.
There you are, an upper respiratory wreck. And there they are, NyQuil and a look-alike.
It may not be NyQuil, but it's cheaper. The thing is, with NyQuil, you know you won't be up tonight coughing and sneezing, and you gotta rest. You're being paranoid. This is probably made by Vicks. Here it is in teeny print. It's not made by Vicks. This may be cheaper, but I'm not taking any chances.
NyQuil, the only nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head fever so you can rest medicine made by Vicks. Also available in new liquid caps.
I know, along with millions of other people, born out of wedlock. And on our next show, other people who grew up being called illegitimate confront their parents about it.
I tried to do things, but her mother said, no, do not bother.
Mom always told me that you were a pathological liar. I'd like him to take responsibility for what he did instead of constantly making excuses. Born out of wedlock on the next Oprah.
Thursday at 4 on Channel 2.
Here is Joan Rivers from a Showtime. Who has made us laugh more often talk about self-deprecation. Here you are on Showtime, Joan Rivers.
The truth is, that's what counts. Sex abuse, sex abuse. I have no sex abuse. I don't want to talk about that. Oh, don't be kind. Don't be kind. Last night, I had to get my vibrator drunk. I don't want to hear. Please. At the airport, they make me frisk myself. A rapist once put a bag over my head. I mean, you know...
Well, is this week?
That's this week. Yeah. Tomorrow.
Guess who had you know what?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. This is a TV Guide cover on people who have cosmetic work done.
Yeah.
Well, aren't you honest?
Yeah, and well, we all should be. I mean, I think the whole point of your celebrity is you tell people what you do, and if they like you, at least they listen, they get another opinion, you know? There's so many people in our business, if you know what I'm talking about, that do everything and say, not me. And you want to say, you could run the R&B railroad across the back of your head, you know? Yeah, so that's me, and tomorrow on my show we're doing a whole thing on plastic surgery.
You are, including a very close-up look at your own work, is that right?
Yes, we took the camera right in with me up to the point where he really began to operate.
And this is on the Joan Rivers show tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Well, my dear.
I was scared.
I'll have to start watching you as often as I watch my own show.
Sure.
Joan, please let me take just a very brief... Edgar left tapes. And you cannot bring yourself to listen to these audio tapes. Melissa has.
Melissa listened to him right away. My husband had such a distinct voice. It was the old actor Ronald Coleman. It was really what Edgar sounded like. And I just could not hear the tape. Could not. I had a transcript. The police made a transcript for me.
As you share with the readers of your book, part of the tape that Edgar recorded prior to his suicide said, among other things, "I cannot bear to be shunted aside and be a fifth wheel." I think this is central to...
Oh, of course. Of course. He had been absolutely broken by the people at Fox. Disgustingly and publicly broken. He was very, very ill, and he was on all kinds of medication. He was a very proud man. And he just didn't want to go through the pain of getting up from the bottom again.
I know this is not your fault. This is all my doing. I had the heart attack, and I'm a changed person. But believe me, when I fought, I always fought for you. The anger is something I have not been able to control since the heart attack, so forgive me for that. It's very hard for me to show emotion because I was not brought up that way, but you made those 22 years a heaven for me. I miss you desperately, and I love you. Do you want to blame a company for this or the behavior of a nervous executive? I mean,
oh, you look back, and the Fox thing was such, as it comes out in the book, such a fiasco, such an ugly time.
They argue that his love for you was an admirable thing. Shouldn't all men have this for their wives? But he was a giant pain in the... And I do not disgrace his memory to say so. He would acknowledge
But he was right. And if the show had hit in a second, they'd be kissing his butt. And you know it, and I know it. And the executives that didn't like him and dared to say he was wrong, not one is there. Everyone since has been let go or fired from there. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They put a bunch of young, inexperienced boys and said to them, run this show. And they didn't know what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And that's what comes out in the book. And there was friction. I'll listen to anybody. If Hitler came back and was smart, I'll listen to him. Don't give me a 22-year-old gay guy. I assume some were. Probably not. Just assume, so I can't be sued. Don't give me some guy who doesn't know what the hell he's doing and put him in charge of my show when I've been doing this for 22 years. It was a nightmare. The whole thing was a nightmare. A nightmare.
You mean no disparagement toward gay people?
Oh, are you kidding? I'm queen of the gays. Of course not. Oh, please. Are you kidding? No way.
What
I'm saying is, with the people that some of the people, because I can't be sued, And this is my first time talking about the books. I have to be careful. I'll be much slicker from now on.
Yeah, thanks for trying it out on my show. We'll both be in the dock. You wanted to say.
I just want to say, some of the people that they put in charge of the show should not have been put in charge of the show.
Well,
And Edgar, unfortunately, had no tact. Edgar didn't, he couldn't suffer fools.
Right. The Carson divorce began with, they had a big party for the Carson group, and you weren't invited.
Never invited. In 22 years, never invited. Invited once, finally.
You and Johnny were, boy, frickin' frack out there. He knew you, he knew when to lean forward. It was like a fine Swiss watch, the two of you, comedically speaking. And that's why they grabbed you with both hands. We're tired of calling all these guest hosts. You be our permanent. Fine. Sold. You do the show. You knock them out. You're good. And suddenly there's, you don't hear from Johnny. Do I have it in short?
Yeah, but very shorthand, but yes. I mean, he was the best straight man in the business. They took me because my ratings were the highest of anybody.
Yes, they were.
And, but I never heard from him. We were never friends off camera. It was magic on camera. He was the best person I ever worked with.
But we don't want to divorce him for that, so he's, so he doesn't jump out of the cake. You don't care, do you?
No, I divorced him because a memo was circulated and sent to me saying that the replacements if Carson left would be the following 10, and my name wasn't on it. So I knew
You saw the candidates for replacement.
Yeah, I saw the letter.
All right.
And that told me there was no home for me at NBC. It would have happened to me now this year.
Yeah.
So it happened to me 4 years ago.
And Edgar held up with this?
Edgar saw the letter. We knew. We then
Yeah, but I mean emotionally, how was he doing?
He said time to find another spot. And they had been coming to me. They had been asking me to take over the Barbara Walters specials. I mean, everything was being offered to me at that point.
Here is the moment, I happen to know this very, very well, because I was there. I was a candidate, right? I'm sitting there. I'm saying, please let me win this one. But if I don't win it, let Joan have it. And here is Joan Rivers. Here's a woman comes, out of this terrible, terrible nightmare to win Best Talk Show. At the Daytime Emmys, I give you Miss Rivers accepting with gratitude.
And the winner is, I'm shaking, Joan Rivers.
The last 2 years have been very difficult. 2 years ago, I couldn't get a job in this business. I could not get a job. My income dropped to 1/16 of what it was before I was fired. And people said I wouldn't work again. And my husband, as you know, had a breakdown. It's so sad that he's not here because it was my husband, Edgar Rosenberg, who always said, you can turn things around. And except for one terrible moment in a hotel in Philadelphia when he forgot that, this is really him because he was with me from the beginning, and I'm so sorry. We'll
be back in just a minute.
Recently, the respected San Francisco Chronicle published an independent evaluation comparing 5 weight loss programs. Of the national programs, 1 had food rated highest in taste, texture, and appearance. It also had a knowledgeable and supportive staff, and the cost was reasonable. Now, which program was it?
Jenny Craig.
Lose all the weight you want for just a $79 program fee. Dial direct 1-800-92-JENNY.
Goodbye, Tide with Bleach. Here's Ultra.
I've tried everything, but this gets the odor out of my laundry.
Instead of a cup, one little scoop.
I can't believe the scoop is so small. You see these socks? They could walk out the door by themselves. And the odor? Oof.
Take dirt and odor gone down to the fiber. Gets only this white with this other detergent, but with Ultra Tide with Bleach, it's whiter without chlorine bleach.
So white? Not a trace of that smell. I don't need liquid bleach anymore.
Today's Tide with Bleach is Ultra.
In the spirit of the Northwest, here's what's happening. One Church, One Child of Oregon's mission is to find African American families to adopt African American children. Celebrate their 3rd anniversary at their annual banquet November 9th. For tickets, call 285-7634. KATU urges you to help keep a needy child warm this winter by donating Coats Your Children Have Outgrown to the Salvation Army's Coats for Kids campaign. During the month of October, take used coats to any dry cleaner which displays a Coats for Kids poster.
To be part of the audience, please send a postcard to Donahue Tickets, care of NBC, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, New York, New York, 10112. Remember, postcards only, please.
Joan Rivers' book titled, appropriate enough, Still Talking and Still Making People Laugh as well, is a very compelling review of a life that has been anything but boring. And yes, there are highs in here, but oh, the lows are so painful. I am pleased to share with you Joan's dedication of this book to Melissa, who has shared so much of the pain and so little of the glory. Please welcome Joan Rivers' own Melissa. Come on. Uh-huh. Well, do you let her out of the house?
A good kid.
She's, how old, may I ask?
22, going to be 23.
Uh-huh. And once again, as we might have expected from your mother, Melissa, she is drop dead honest about you as well.
I know.
You two had your problems. Did you blame your mom for your dad's death?
I blamed everybody. I blamed anybody within arm's reach. I got angry at our housekeeper. I got angry at my mother's manager at the time. I got angry at my mother. It was everybody's fault. Everybody except for my father.
And after Yom Kippur, did you went to a synagogue at which your father's name was to be read in memoriam?
Yes.
This was following Shiva and
Oh,
what?
terrible. Go ahead.
Tell them. Well, Melissa?
We showed up at the temple
Sorry.
about 5 minutes late.
5 minutes late from memorial service. And some son of a bitch at the door said, it was pouring rain that day, that you can't go in, the service has started. And I said, my husband was dead 10 days. And I said, it's the temple we belong to. And I said, please let us in, we'll stand in the back. And he said, no, the service has started, and that's the policy. And 10 days dead, and this is the most important, every Jew knows I'm doing this, the most important service for the dead, Day of Atonement. And look at my daughter's face. My daughter had been through things no 18-year-old should be through at that point. And I just didn't know what to do. So I said to her, because I'm a Jap, I said, let's go shopping. And we did. And we went, go ahead, we went to Polo.
We went to Polo.
And I just, like crazy people, we bought, and we had no money then, there was no income. We bought thousands of dollars. We never asked for, you like the skirt, get it in every color. And I started to cry so hard, and I couldn't stop crying in the dressing room. It was insane. It was the most insane day, that day. But I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to give her some pleasure, somewhere, because God was putting her through something she had no reason to be put through. This was not of her making, this tragedy. And it was, I think, probably the worst day of my morning.
And it wouldn't have been half as bad if you were alone. I'm sure you'd have been PO'd, but
not
in
when
front.
Not when you have children, not when you see your child's face disintegrate in front of you, no. At that point, I said, we're just going to do something.
Yeah. Is it possible, I know it's complicated, but as you may know, you are not the first mother-daughter team to be dissonant, discordant, and ships in the night. What'd you do? What pulled it back? Here you are, looking good to me.
What pulled it back? A lot of fighting. I know that sounds bizarre, but we beat each other up. and not physically, I just like verbally would just be talking about nothing, and then suddenly it would just explode over something stupid, like, you know, don't ask me where I'm going. I'm a big girl, I don't need to tell you. And it would just blow up into these huge fights. And I went into therapy to deal with it because I had such anger. And you?
Tell the nice part. Tell about the house.
Oh.
That kills me. I'm going to cry.
It all finally came together when I was very attached to the house I was raised in. And I was not going to let go. It became a point of contention between us. My mother wanted to sell the house. As much as she wanted to sell it, I would say no. And just fight. And finally, my mother called me from the airport and said, I will keep it. And I had about 5 hours to sit there and think about it. And I called her back by the time she got to the hotel where she was going and said, go ahead and sell it.
No, you didn't. You
said wherever you are is home. And that was the major turning point, I think,
You
for
said
us.
to your mother, wherever you are is home?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not all your fault, Joe. How the hell do we know? Yeah. You know, it must be a lot of weight coming up here off your back here for all these...
Then you figured there was a way back. There was a path through it all that we could get back. Because we had been so close. You know, when things were good, the family was like the three of us against the world, you know, my husband and Melissa and I. And then to have him commit suicide and then to lose your daughter at the same time, have her lose her mother, you know, in a sense.
Yeah, and you're broke.
And broke, and no career, and my agent calling me up and saying, there's no work. You know, I couldn't get arrested. And and finally to hear her say, to have her realize that the one thing that we had left was each other, and to realize it was, a good day for us.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
Can I ask you a personal question? Have you ever burnt your rice in vermicelli? Maybe you left it for a second? Fortunately, there's new Lipton Golden Sauté. In one step, your rice and vermicelli come out golden every time because Lipton has already sautéed it for you. No skillet, no risk.
Don't risk your rice. Get new Golden Sauté.
I don't just dust my furniture. I give my wood the royal treatment. With Old English oil. It seals in wood's moisture to help prevent drying and cracking. Give your wood the royal treatment with Old English.
Why take another cold and flu season lying down? At the first sign of a cold or flu, take Coricidin. It relieves your runny nose, congestion, and fever fast, and even helps stop them from getting worse. Coricidin D. The sooner, the better.
Does the sniffling and sneezing that's keeping you up at night tell you your cold pill isn't doing all it should? Does your coughing and sore throat give you the feeling those tiny time pills aren't so advanced? Then it's time to try the new NyQuil Liquid Cap. It has the relief you expect of liquid medicines for coughs and sore throats, plus relief for sneezing and congestion. The Vicks NyQuil Liquid Cap. The very first nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, sore throat fever so you can rest. Liquid Cap.
This picante sauce says it's better than the salsa made in New York City. They don't say how it stacks up against La Victoria. I wonder why. I wonder if it's because La Victoria uses fresh tomatoes, peppers, and onions. I wonder if it's because La Victoria has always made thick, chunky salsa. I wonder if it's because La Victoria flat out tastes better. That's it.
Try La Victoria. They've got a salsa for every taste. From Touchstone Pictures, critics are calling Billy Bathgate the motion picture event of the season. It's dynamite. Oh, it's good on you, kid. It's first class all the way. Terrific movie making.
You're my prodigy.
Dustin Hoffman is brilliant.
Let me explain something to you in plain English.
And the movie itself is a triumph. Dustin Hoffman, Nicole Kidman, Lauren Dean, Bruce Willis, Billy Bathgate, rated R.
Starts tomorrow at a theater near you.
Bargain hunting at factory outlet stores.
Tomorrow at 9.
Hi, Phil. Joan and your daughter Melissa, I just wanted to ask you, when you went through this tragedy, most people can hide behind it, behind their house and everything. How do you feel when you go into stores and when you feel you're getting your strength back and it's like right there on one of the tabloids, or people walking up to you talking about people they don't even know?
You go first. The worst for me was I went back to school 3 weeks later in Philadelphia, and it was on the radio, and it was hard. It was, people knew, everybody knew. I went back to school, and everyone, was like pointing and looking, but you just deal with it. You just do it.
But there's another side to it. There's a side, people are wonderful. I'm talking about strangers now. I would be walking down the street feeling I can't go on, I can't take another step, and a garbage man would say to me, keep going, kid. Strangers would come up to me and say, I've said a prayer for you. People were very generous with their pouring out of affection. And so there's, all the horror in the tabloids. There's also the nice part by people knowing they can help you.
Hi, I don't have a question, but I just want to commend you on your strength. I think it's great, and do keep going.
Oh, thank you.
Do you remember me, John? I met you a year ago on your show. I'm Gerard Montaz.
Oh.
You were great then, and now I think you're even greater.
Thank you. I thought I recognized you. That's nice. Yes.
Does my face ring a bell at all with you? Are you there, caller? Hi, I'm glad you waited.
Phil?
Sir.
Phil, how you doing? Joan, how are you today, Joan?
Very good, thank you.
I watch your show every day. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Joan, listen, what do you think about me dating your daughter?
Oh, go to your room.
She should be dating me.
We're going to be doing a show on, President Bush sent me a letter. He knows somebody from Melissa. I swear to you. She died.
Hi, go ahead. You're on the air. Hi. Are you there?
Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Joan a question. Joan, can you please tell me, what made you write such a serious book? Everybody knows you as comedy. What made you write this book?
Well, it's not the first serious book I've written. I'm really a writer, and I've written a Broadway play that was serious, and I wrote another book called Enter Talking. And I just wanted to get this, I wanted to set the record straight for my husband, really. It's really, there were so many things written, so erroneously written, that I just said, let the person that was there write about it.
Are you there? Hi.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Phil, I think you're terrific, and I think, Joan, I think you're beautiful, and your daughter is beautiful, too. I just want to ask you, I saw one of your shows last week, and I have to ask, what did you think about Vanilla Ice? Because he was very rude to you.
He's very young, and he's come up from nowhere on the streets, and he's not into drugs, and he's sending out a good message to the kids. He'll learn manners. But, and at the end, he warmed up, did you know? Also, he'd had a bad experience on Arsenio, so he was coming off of a very bad experience. By the end of the show, I thought he was okay. I call him Ike now. That's how close we are. Well.
Hi, Joan. First, I got to say, my grandma's going to love this show because she loves both of you. So, I'm an up-and-coming comic, and I admire you because you stuck to what you wanted to do no matter what anyone else told you. First, when did you get your big break? And second, where are we going shopping after the show?
I got my big break on the Carson Show, really. Actually, Second City and then the Carson Show. But I worked for 7 years in little clubs where nobody cared. And so you should remember that.
Sure. This is to Melissa. When you go out to clubs or you go out socially, do you find, a lot of people know you, do they hassle you, or is it pretty much, low-key?
It's pretty much low-key, but it's very... I look so much like my mother. I get a lot of, didn't I go to high school with you? People know they know me, but they don't know how. And it's very bizarre. I've been,
She dyes her hair, by the way. Mine is a natural color.
But it's low-key.
We'll be back with the author of Still Talking in just a moment.
Business career. Computerized office management. Computerized accounting. Begin by enrolling at Delta College of Business, continuing 90 years of commitment to success of our graduates. Delta College of Business, day and evening classes. Financial aid if you qualify. Call Delta